Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Those of you that are under the sound of my voice that have just scrolled on to me. Yes, you reached Walking with Mr. Clay. And yes, I'm Mr. Clay, yeah. And we thank God for you, whether you incognito or whether you just there just listening to see what I'm going to say. We thank God for you anyway. And also we thank God for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and those of you that have been with us here and there's about popping your heads in and out. And we thank the Most High for those of you who have been contemplating on subscribing. Yes, like, share, and subscribe. And are about to push that button to subscribe. Push it, I dare you. But either way, well, I tell you one thing. This is one of the most controversial platforms that you're gonna hit, because the fact is that I'm in the book, word for word, verse for verse, chapter for chapter. We're here. We try to do it as fast as we can without getting too meticulous, but we're here. And we're being really unbiased with this, because we see where men have failed. The failure of the books is men and their agendas. That is the failure of the written books. There are many translations, many ways, languages, and formats the Bible is written, or the book is written. But the book is incomplete if you only have the 66. Really, to get all of them, the fact is you have to get rid of the 27. And I have come to the conclusion that the 27 books are null and void, and anything thereafter that contains its substance. Yes, talking about Christianity, Orthodox and unorthodox, Islam, Orthodox and unorthodox, because of the fact you still have this Messiah guy that is not a part of it. This lets me know that wherever you got this from, you got it from Romanism. I call it Romanism, yes, because these wasn't written until that time. It was not written. Most of it was not translated until that time. It was written. The people knew what the prophets were saying, and therefore wrote down, and the orators that would recite the law every day or every Sabbath, they knew what they were saying, and they knew the truth about it too. So they had to fix it up. Why would you think that they had to fix it up to where the Pharisees and Sadducees come against the so-called Isis? Because they knew the scripture. In other words, this guy, there were miracles done before. How come they didn't follow after Elijah or Elisha? Make this make sense. And to the point where they made him after a god, when not only the Naaman, one of the princes, had washed in the muddy river, also when the dead were raised in that time, and I'm sure there were many sick that were healed. They didn't have no problem with demons being in them and out of them and stuff like that. The demons came with the New Testament. If you look at it, where is the demons there? But either way, make it make sense. It would be my theme for the whole thing. Make it make sense. Isaiah. This is the most doctored book in the whole, should I say, books contained in this one book. It's doctored, it's some of everything. We've just seen where the translators or those who have rewritten the book have inserted where they try to point everyone toward this Isis, when the narrative is not about Isis. It's about the king of Assyria. And let's get back into it. But anyway, we thank God for you, and you. And we're going to get into Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 1. And it reads, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, that write grievousness which they have prescribed." In other words, you're talking about laws, their own laws, changing the laws, changing the times, changing everything. Why do they do it? To turn aside the needy from judgment. In other words, just judgment. To take away the right from the poor of my people. This is happening even in captivity. They make laws, they do unrighteous decrees or statutes in your community, in your, should I say, to suit one people and to try to subdue another through legalism, which really is just making up things that is not there. He says, "The poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless." Even you got the retired, the old. So many of them are not in the time that we are in today. Their minds are not there, and then there we go. They come up with all kind of rules and scams and everything. These are the younger people that are doing this. And some of the old people that have been doing it for years and haven't got caught yet. So they robbed the poor of my people, he says. This is what Israel was. This was Judah. Judah was doing these things. And the widow, that the widow may be their prey. The one who has lost a husband in a war or in a skirmish somewhere out defending, or what he think he was doing, defending, as some of you military people, some of you actually, your ancestors have defended, but some of you are just basically an assault tool, a theft tool, yes, theft tool for those who are in authority. Now, according to their agenda. Now, but you have agreed, and that you cannot turn away from lest you suffer some adverse repercussions. Now, he says now in verse 3, "And what will ye do in the day of visitation?" What is he talking about? The day of visitation. See, this is where we know that these scriptures that they say is about Isis is not Isis, or they have inserted it, because even Isaiah himself comes along and says, "The children that the I am have given me, they are for signs." During this time, this is the time where a major thing is happening in the land of Israel, to Judah. Excuse me. Now, in the desolation which shall come from afar, to whom ye will flee for help, and there will ye leave your glory. In the time of great bombardment and when the wrath of the Most High come, we flee to hide in order to preserve our life, to try to get as far as we can to our expectations. As far as when our bodies just expire, it's just over. Ain't nothing else you can do. Nobody's doing nothing to you. It's just your body gone. Okay, we're gonna put it that way. Now he says that without me, they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Now this is what is happening now. The whole narrative up to now is, "O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation." In other words, their weaponry, their anger, and everything else is, should I say, how would I put it? I would say, yes. I would say that the Most High has put his anger in their hatred, in their jealousy, in their greed, although they don't know why they're going, or they think they know. But the fact is that the Most High has put these things here. We have to understand, why do the Most High send nations against nations? Why do he send people against people? Because the Most High is angry. It's not that that person knows what they're doing, although they think they do. But then yet the Most High will turn around. Let's look at it again. I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him charge. So God is the darkness, God is the evil, and so he's going to bring Jesus to deliver them at that time. But that's for thousands of years later. Come on here, let's make it make sense. To take a spoil, to take a prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. Yes. See, that's what they see, but they don't see the anger of the Most High that have delivered them, the Judeans, into the hands of the Assyrians. Israel is gone. Syria took it over. It took 10 tribes. Howbeit, he meaneth not so, neither does his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and to cut off nations, not a few. See, this is the reason for wars. This is why we must pray for our peoples. We must pray. Those of you of a dark hue, you must pray that we begin to please the Most High, that your adversary, your oppressor, does not strengthen his hand against you. The same thing with those of different lands, Africa, Burkina Faso, the Sahel or South Africa, and Australia, that the Most High strengthen not the hands of your oppressor to execute the Most High's wrath against your people or even you. This is what Job did individually. See, God is showing us something that we don't see. We have to be careful that we do not anger the Most High. Yes. Now let's continue. He says, now, howbeit, meaneth not so, doth his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings? Is not Calno or Carchemish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? As my hand hath found in the kingdom of idols. These are idols. The Samaritans were idol worshippers, and whose graven images still excel them of Jerusalem and of Samaria. That was the number one, the first thing the Most High was in covenant with the children of Israel, or Jacob. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me, seen or unseen. And many of you Christians, although you can jump up and down and huma shan 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 and all this stuff, and those of you that worship that rock that you go and visit on your pilgrimage, and then you believe the same thing in this Isis, another god, whom they have put up, regardless of how you try to see him, the fact is that he never existed. God has no son. He was no prophet. No. What prophecy did he give that wasn't already given? It already was told you what was going to happen. But we rather read the short version, which turns out to be a blatant lie mixed with truth. Now, wherefore, it shall come to pass that when the I Am hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. Although the Most High put an enemy against the children of Israel, against you, Judah, Israel. You don't know who you are, most of you don't. But we can tell many of you of a dark hue, we call black folks or African folks, mixed, don't know where you're going, wondering here's about, trying to find your identity. Everything's been mixed, even your tribalism. You don't even really understand that. But what he says, he sends your enemies against you. Why do you think France is coming against you? Why do you think all these other Western nations are coming against you? Although God has his time for them, it hasn't happened yet. Some of you even get to the point where you say that, oh, they got a taste of what they've done for us. No, they have not. It is much worse than what you can imagine, what God has for the oppressor and the enemy of the children of Jacob. Yes, it is much worse, much hideous. You don't know the half. Neither have you investigated if you have that question or if you make that statement. Now, let us continue. He said, it will come to pass. Yes, shall I not have done so to Samaria and her idols, to do so to Jerusalem and her idols? Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the I Am perform his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. How would that be? Well, we can tell Babylon. So where did this child, this thing they come out with? This prophecies, even up to Isaiah 53. Where does all this stuff come from? Liars. They had to set up this Messiah guy. They had to set him up in the Old Testament in order for people to believe the New Testament later. He had to get set up. Yes, he did. Now it says now, for he said, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom I am prudent. I have removed the bounds of the people, and I have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. This is the way of the oppressor. He praises himself. He thinks that he's better than everyone. His children, his wives, his women, his daughters, all the people that are related to him and that have joined themselves, look at themselves as better. Even those of the children of Jacob, they look at themselves as better. When the fact is, you don't know what you're headed for. It may seem as though the person that is content and walking with the Most High has very little, or they have suffered many things, but eventually they're going to rejoice when you weep. Now, it says, and my hand, in verse 14, hath found as a nest of riches of the people, and as one gathereth eggs that are left, and I have gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing, or opened the mouth, or peeped. It was easy for the oppressor. It was easy for the oppressor to take you from one country to another on ships and this and that, because the Most High made it that way. Other than that, they could not do nothing. That which they could not take and was not destined to take, they couldn't even budge. Look at Ethiopia. Look at the remnant that are left on the continent of Africa. And there's still a remnant of the children of Jacob, even in the land of Shem. Whether they know it or not, yes, it is so. Only those that God have destined to be that way. Now, let's begin. 14, and shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith, or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? Or if the rod should shake itself against him that lifted it up, as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were no wood. In other words, I control you. It's what's the Most High is saying, King of Assyria. The Most High controls you. Russia, China, the U.S., Europe, the different factions and countries in Africa, North, South, East, and West, the Middle East. The Most High controls you, that he might develop a remnant of people who have been tried and tested to that great and notable day that the Most High shall come with 10,000s, thousands of the anointed. Yes. According to the book of Enoch. We're not going into Revelation. No, that book been doctored, messed up, and everything else, and false. But either way, he says, therefore, the I am of hosts sending among, or the owner of hosts, you can say that way, sending among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory shall kindle a burning like a burning of a fire, and the light of Israel shall be for a fire. Oh, my. There go that light again. What does he mean by the light? And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame. And it shall burn and devour his thrones and his bearers in one day, and shall consume the glory. Oh, that's Jesus. Yeah, he talking about Jesus, man. Oh, I had to tell you. Yeah, it's Jesus, right? Okay. For his fruit fulfill both soul and body, and they shall be as when a standard bearer fainteth. When a standard bearer fainteth, you about lost the war, because they gonna make sure the standard stands. And the rest of the trees of his forest shall be few, that a child may write them. Yeah, okay. Now, and it shall come to pass in that day, in verse 20, that the remnant of Israel and such are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the I am. In other words, the Most High did this that a few might see and fear. That a few might see and fear and respect the Most High and honor the covenant between the children of Jacob and the Most High. The Most High wants to commune with man. But yet, men are so swayed, easily swayed by different spirits. This is why we say Abram even knew this. And all that he did not have social media. He didn't have Bibles or nothing like that. But he said, deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have swayed over the thoughts of men's hearts. That he did. And verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. We're going to skip over to 21. And the remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. This is the reason for Assyria coming against the children of Jacob. Now he goes back to Jacob. He don't say Israel. He's naming Jacob now. For though my people of Israel has as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return, and the consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. It doesn't matter who believes and who don't believe. It matters the fact that who the Most High have chosen. And this is the remnant. Have come through the fire and the flood, as we put it. The testing. And that testing is not just with words and spectacularism. It's not just a fictitious science fiction movie. It's the fact of a person who have actually gone through bullets, guns, blood, smoke, heartache, pain, sickness, disease, and yet still hang on. Job is that example. Yes. He is his most, should I say, stressful and distressful, to the point the average person could not even withstand. Now, let's get again. He says, therefore thus saith the I am of hope, O my people that dwelleth in Zion. This is Jebus, Jerusalem. Be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee after the manner of Egypt. Now you see how they worded things after the farmers, after shepherds, after those who, after herdsmen. He worded this that they might understand it. Not no child shall come and all this other stuff. They understood that they were about to be subdued by the Assyrians. For yet a very little while the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction. In other words, everything, once God get through, this is the way the Most High is also. Once the Most High get through using a tool, the Most High will break that tool. Because most tools that the Most High use are in the Most High's anger and correction. And that tool is no longer needed. And the tool, most of the time, is flesh. Yes. He says, now, and the I am of hosts shall stir up and scourge him according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And his rod was upon the sea, and so shall it lift up after the manner of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. In other words, Assyria is going to be subdued, brought low. Babylon is coming. Babylon is coming. It is come. Eata. He is passed to Migron and to Makmesh, and he had laid up his carriages. They are gone over the passes. They have taken up their lodging in Geba. Ramah is afraid. Gibeah of Saul is fled. Lift up thy voice, O daughter of Gallim, cause it to be heard unto Laish, O poor of Ananoth, Anath. These words get me though. Anathoth. Madmena is removed, and inhabitants of Gibeon gather themselves to flee. As yet remain at Nob that day, he shall shake his hand against the mount of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem is on mountains. Why didn't he say mountains then? Get a life. Jerusalem is on what we would call a hill. They call it mount, and they can call it a mountain. It just depends on what your flavor and your taste is, cuz. But either way, behold, the I am of hosts shall lop the bow with terror, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humbled. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. Now this is what the Most High did this all for, because of the hypocrisy of Jacob, Judah, and Israel. They're all hypocrisy. So he brought the Assyrians against them in a nutshell. But if we do those things, acknowledging the Most High in all our ways, and let the Most High, the law of the Most High, direct our paths, yes, we will have peace.